Hello, everybody, and welcome to this fourth Equilibrium community call. In case you don't know me yet, my name is Lesley. I'm in charge of business development and customer success, and I'm here today, as always, with two of my colleagues from our management team, Alex Melikhov, who's our CEO, and Peter Sergeev, who is our head of tech. And I will just tell you very briefly, in case you don't remember or in case you haven't joined these calls earlier, what is Equilibrium about in a nutshell? Equilibrium is the first decentralized interoperable money market building on Polkadot. And we unite all of the key DeFi use cases in a one-stop shop, notably with a focus on our lending platform and our DEX with margin trading and perpetuals and synthetic assets. And let me just hand over now to my two colleagues who I mentioned before, who are going to introduce themselves to you. Alex, take it away.
Hey everyone, thank you very much for joining us today. The fourth community call, which we are holding on the monthly basis, and definitely awesome that you are guys keeping up with us and basically watching our progress. And we definitely would love to update you on the latest achievements that we got in Equilibrium, and obviously we'll be touching the upcoming PLO, and we will share a lot of particular things about that, including numbers, terms, and so on and so forth. I'm Alex, the CEO with the Equilibrium team. I'm responsible for the overall project strategy, and I'm also the product owner with the Equilibrium team. Without further ado, I'm giving over to my colleague Peter.
Yes, hi everyone, nice to meet you here. I'm Peter. I'm business analyst and a technical team manager with Equilibrium, and I'm going to be covering today our tech updates. So
Great.
Let's start.
Yeah, Alex, if we could have the next slide. So I'm just going to give you a brief overview, as always, about what we're going to be talking about so you know what to expect. And obviously, as in the previous calls, and as always, we're going to give you an update on the technology, as Peter mentioned, and also the products that we have lined up, which are quite far underway. Then I'm going to tell you about our events, past and present. And as Alex has said, there's going to be a special focus this time on the PLO. The PLO, once again, abbreviates Parachain leasing offering, which, as you probably know, is the event, plural, the crowd loan auctions on Polkadot for the Parachain leasing slots. We're going to tell you a lot of details on that, how we're doing it specifically, what you need to pay attention to if you are going to be participating with us, including how our user interface looks, our KYC procedure, and very exciting news, our plans to participate on Kusama. And then, as always, at the end of the presentation, we're going to have a Q&A session, which is going to consist both of your live questions that you ask us in the chat here. Feel free to do that. And also, if we get to it, the questions that we've collected from you in advance to the event. So if I could have the next slide, please, then I'm going to hand over to Peter.
Yes, hello guys. So it's our fourth community call. The 1 month has passed since the last one, and for the past months, we and the dev team have been very busy. And here on the slide, you can see some of the major milestones we have achieved. Basically, those include the production release, with the most important one, I guess. Yesterday, we released our product into the production. So currently, we have like 2 networks, one in testnet and one in mainnet, which basically are the same thing. And I'll be talking in a greater detail in a while about that one. We've also introduced the lending functionality, and that means you can now not only generate stable coins, but borrow other crypto assets, and I'll cover that shortly. We have also completed our first milestone for the Curve Automated Market Maker grant we've applied with Parity and Web3. And we've also built and tested interfaces for our PLO phase 1. So let's please proceed, and now I will cover all of those in greater detail. So the lending functionality. Before the current update, we only had provided the possibility for users to generate stablecoin and basically borrow stablecoins for the collateral borrowers bring. We have updated that, and now we have included the functionality that allows borrowers to bring in collateral and borrow different assets directly from the bailment pool. This is somewhat like an intermediate step for us, because further we want to introduce the special lending functionality, where basically users will be taking out assets not from the bailment pool, but rather from a separate lending pool, which will be focused solely on lending out the assets. Because as you know, currently bailsmen, they serve another important role in our system. They basically insure the borrowers and make sure there's always enough liquidity in the system in case of stressed market conditions or some sort of black swan events. But currently, yes, we limit that lending to the bailment pool, and we limit the amount you can borrow to 50% or less of the total liquidity in every single asset that there is in the bailment pool. And the 50% comes from the simple fact that, for example, if the total amount of Bitcoins, let's say in the lending pool, in the bailment pool is 10, and if borrowers take out 5, there is still left 5 Bitcoins in the bailment pool, which may be used as a cover for the possible losses of that other 5 Bitcoins in debt. Of course, our initial percentage is going to be lower than 50%, and right now I believe we've set them to be 40% of the total liquidity in every coin, respectfully. To introduce this functionality, we've done a lot of simulation and testing, and as you know, and we covered that on our last call, we have like this super cool integration testing system where we basically simulate our system in tests. We generate lots of borrower positions, lots of bailment positions, and we take those positions at random from some predefined distributions, trying to get as close as possible to the systems we currently see in production. And we start playing with those positions basically by submitting different prices, lowering volatility or increasing volatility, and seeing how the system reacts to these events. We've also adjusted our interfaces to accommodate borrowing of different assets, because before we had only stable coins, as I told you, and currently in our interfaces you can go ahead and borrow whatever you like from the list of assets we currently support. I suggest everyone here go ahead and play with our testnet and see for yourself. On a testnet we have faucets for most of the tokens, but for Ethereum assets we have an actual bridge set up where you can bring Ethereum assets from Rinky testnet, and currently those assets are limited only to 2 tokens, Ethereum and Curve governance token. Okay, so that's it for the lending. So now let's proceed with the further updates. The production release. Yes, so as I told you, we've basically released our latest version into the production, and that version includes the already mentioned bridge. We have also migrated our token generation event chain to match our testnet, and basically we have 2 identical chains currently, one being in test environment and one being in production environment. However, I gotta warn you that in production we currently still restrict transfers, so there is not much to do there, but the technology is already released and ready to go. We're just waiting for some integrations and listings before we actually allow users to do anything in the production. with that release, we've also migrated to custom address formats because before that we supported like a substrate native address formats, and now we have a custom address format. We still do have some milestones up our backlog and our roadmap, which needs to be done. And one of the coolest ones is actually the RenVM bridge, which supports Bitcoins and other different prominent chains. And as a matter of fact, we're going to be touching base with the RenVM team on next week, discussing how we're the possibilities of integration of their bridge into our system. We also want to migrate from enums, and that's the way how we address assets, different assets in our system currently, to actual assets trade within the substrate, and this will allow us to enable the addition of new assets on the fly in our system, because currently whenever we add a new asset, we need to basically update our runtime and redeploy stuff. And with the migration to assets, hopefully we will get rid of that, and we'll be adding assets either initially via a pseudo functionality and later on via some sort of governance or multisig on the fly. We have currently drafted our initial decentralized exchange setup, and this is also very exciting news. And basically there is like a technical assignment in place, and we already know which tasks we're going to be doing first. And initially it will be the introduction of maintenance margin and defaults, basically because currently we only have like a critical margin, and whenever the portfolio collateralization drops below that critical margin, users are liquidated automatically with the help of our off-chain workers. And with the introduction of maintenance margin calls, users will basically have some time room to top up their balances or to reduce their debts to avoid the actual liquidation. And well, that's it for the milestones and for the production release. So yes, please go ahead with the next slide. The lending functionality. Yeah, I've already talked about that. So basically, wait.
I believe that this slide is about the curve milestone, the headline.
The curve milestone, yeah. I got kind of confused for a second. Yeah, so the curve milestone, this is also huge news for us. So as the viewers, listeners, and our community may know, we have engaged with Curve protocol to bring their functionality into the Polkadot ecosystem. And we believe this is really important for the ecosystem, as when Parachains and all the interoperability goes live, there will be numerous assets basically representing the same thing inside Polkadot. For example, there could be several Ethereum bridges. There will be definitely several Bitcoin bridges, etc., etc. And all of those assets will basically represent the same thing. And there needs to be a way to actually handle or to interchange between those assets effectively. And that's where the Curves technology and their invariant comes into play. Basically, they have designed an automated market maker that allows the creation of different asset pools where you can swap or exchange similar assets with a very low slippage and very low commission, and just doing it very effectively. And we have applied with an open grants program to actually build the technology for Polkadot. And we've completed our first milestone, which basically included the calculation of the invariant and some basic methods for handling pools. And we're currently finishing our second milestone and should be ready either early next week or at most by the end of the next week, because we still need to do some extensive testing, and we want to compare the test results and how the system responds with what there's actually in a Curve test environment to see that we did everything correctly. And as soon as we done that. Basically, the Polkadot community will enjoy having this separate module, a palette, which any project may integrate and actually have the Curve AMM set up with them. Okay, this is it for the Curve, and our another exciting news is that we've completed interfaces for our Parachain Lease offering phase 1. And well, the link that is listed here, it's a production link. We haven't yet put everything into production, but we have tested everything on a test net where we played with West End tokens. And basically what users are able to do there is pass the KYC procedure with a custodian by uploading your identification documents and then providing your photograph or scanning your face, which is really simple process, both from the user perspective and from the UI perspective. And once you're KYC'd, you may deposit actual dots and track your deposit history, see how much EQ tokens you will be entitled to. And last but not least, you may participate in referral program. So every participant gets a referral link, and if other users who come in and participate in PLO use that referral link, the user will be entitled to additional bonuses in EQ tokens. Yeah, so interfaces are ready, and we will be ready to demonstrate them on testnet sometime next week, hopefully. Yes, so that's it for the tech updates, and now I'm passing the word back to Lesley. So please go ahead.
I would like to tell you about our events, and one which actually has just taken place recently on March 18th. You might have caught it. Is the Polkadot Defiance event, which we're very excited to have hosted because this was actually the first of its kind, in which we incorporated all of the major projects in DeFi in the ecosystem on Polkadot. This is something that we plan to repeat in future, probably on a regular basis. We haven't determined yet with what frequency, but as a kickoff event, it went very, very well. We had over 2,000 participants, which for the first time is quite a solid number, with global participation from at least 10 different countries, which are all reflecting the focus of our clientele. So that's also a very important milestone. And you can see here reflected the partnerships that we have going and that we have been working with in the scope of this event. It was hosted, besides us, also by Polkadot DeFi Alliance, which is in fact one of the largest, well, it's one of the key interest groups on Polkadot, which specifically, of course, focuses on DeFi and all the major projects that are rolling out, building on Polkadot, and also with the media partner Cointelegraph, which, as you know, is one of the main media sources for blockchain, and specifically with a focus also on DeFi. So very honored to have been working on this together with them, and indeed it turned out really well. You can see here on the left-hand side some of the top projects from the Polkadot ecosystem that we have been featuring on that event. Of course, Parity and Web3 as the core of Polkadot, but also projects that are building on the substrate, such as, for example, Invective, Chainlink, Moonbeam, well, a lot of others here that are really key to the developments of DeFi. And another thing that I'd like to draw your attention to is that we had, in fact, a panel specifically featuring the funds, the VC funds that are coming to invest on Polkadot. And we had some key funds that were participating, including Pantera, Parachain Capital, Dragonfly, AU21, and FBG. And why this is so important, because, of course, as you probably know, if you've been following the developments, Polkadot is really seen as a opportunity to expand the scope of the already booming DeFi market even more beyond Ethereum. And of course, these key funds are recognizing this trend and are bringing their investment to Polkadot. So this tendency has been confirmed by the speakers, and that's a really exciting development. Some of the media partners that we were working with, you can see here on the right-hand side, obviously also global representation in all of our key geographies, whether it's the US, the EU, for Asia Pacific with a special focus on China. And if I could have the next slide, please. So this is an event that actually is upcoming, and it's going to be on May 20th. So I'd like to ask you to save the date if you're interested in this. Specifically, we have a request for you. This is an event which is part of a series that has started last year, and it's something that's hosted by Polkadot. It's called Polkadot Decoded. This was actually one of the hottest blockchain events last year when it kicked off, and they're going to be repeating it this year. And our special request to you would be, if you're convinced by our project, by Equilibrium, then please vote for us. You can see the link here, and under this link, you'll have the opportunity to vote for us until the end of the month, until March 31st. What does that vote mean? Well, what it means is the way this event works is that all of the projects that are on Polkadot that would like to be featured with a pitch, with a speech about the developments that they are working on, submit their applications and the topics that they would like to pitch, and then the community is able to vote and prioritize the projects that they would like to hear about. So we have submitted 4 proposals about topics that interest us. You can see them listed here. To make it short, one is about our special feature bailouts. One is about how we maximize liquidity for DeFi through our unique features. Another is about our multi-collateral stablecoins. And the fourth one is about bridging assets from Ethereum to Polkadot. And if you would like to vote for us, you'll have the opportunity to choose 3 of these 4 topics. Let me just tell you briefly how to do this, because otherwise it takes a moment to get oriented on their website. So you see here the screenshot with the colorful stripes. What this is, these are the topics that Polkadot has allowed us to choose from when determining the applications, the pitches that we would like to do. And if you look at the very bottom line, which is green, it's called custom formats. If you open up their website and you go straight to that topic, custom formats, the green line, and click on it, you're going to find all 4 topics that we've submitted as possibilities. And you can look for just Alex Melikhov, who of course is our CEO, will be pitching those topics, and you'll find them immediately and can choose 3 that you like. And if you do that and vote for us, then if you'll take a look at the left-hand side here, there's a screenshot. It says, I voted. This is the icon that you will get after you voted, and you can also send that to your social media, and you can use that to also inspire your network to do the same, follow your example, and vote for other projects or for us or for whoever they would like to, and that would be much appreciated by the whole community. So this is something I invite you to do. So hopefully that will end up with at least one topic for us that we can pitch on, and we would love to be included in that. So again, a very warm welcome to you to participate in voting. If I could have the next slide, please. The third event is something that we mentioned to you last time very briefly, but now we have more details. So I'd like to go into those a little bit more so that you know what to expect. This is actually an on-site live event that will be both offline and also recorded and later on posted to our social media. This is a developer meetup in Moscow, one of our 2 offices, the other office being in London. And if you would like to save the date, it's going to be April 17th. We have, of course, the target audience is focusing on blockchain developers, specifically back-end. And if you know Rust, then that's a great advantage, but it's not a necessity. So what is the agenda? What are we planning? Why are we doing this? It is, of course, an opportunity to learn from experienced developers who know Polkadot very well, who are either part of the community already or enthusiasts, and they will be telling you how you can get engaged, how you yourself can become a project on Polkadot, and how Polkadot enables you to build customized blockchain projects. There will be free entrance, so it's very easy to participate. It's a great networking opportunity. There's going to be the chance to ask a lot of questions that you probably wouldn't get answers to otherwise, because it's a very directed forum. And afterwards, there will be an after-party event. So we very much welcome you to take part in all or part of that as you wish. And we've already got some of the speakers here confirmed. You can see them sketched on the slide. One of them is Fyodor Sakharov, who's a key developer at Parachain, security technologies behind Polkadot. Then our own Veniamin Khrapov, who's a tech lead at Equilibrium. And then we have Alexei Karasov, who's a digital specialist at one of the leading business consulting companies worldwide, which is McKinsey. And we'll be sharing the details about this event on our website as it develops. So please look out for that as that's going to be ongoing. And these are the three main events that I wanted to tell you about. And now I'm going to pass over the next slide to Alex.
Yeah, and I actually wanted to touch on our Parachain Lease offering, and actually our PLO has become a sort of word of mouth in our community. We received a lot of interest, and as you all can recall, we have successfully closed the whitelist for that. We received a lot of positive feedback on that. We have got thousands of subscribers there, and actually it took us some time to figure out the particulars of our PLO. Specifically, the onboarding procedure with the custodian took some time, and I actually will touch on that as well. But eventually, we are ready to share with you the particular details, and you can see some numbers here on the slide. So first of all, we have defined the dates for the first phase of our PLO, which is the token swap. Right, so just to remind you, this is the opportunity to submit dots and get EQ tokens in exchange. So this sort of event, the swap will take place in April, starting April 12th, and it will last for 2 weeks until April 25th. The swap ratio that we have set for the first phase is 0.07 dots per one EQ token, and the hard cap, like the overall for the PLO, we are raising 1 million dots, as you know, and we actually have set certain hard caps for both phases. For the phase one, the hard cap is 250,000 dots. The hard cap for the second phase is 750,000 dots. So basically, in terms of this .EQ swap, we are distributing like tokens, and the overall EQ token allocation for the PLO, as you know, is 10% of the overall supply. So the participants of the token swap, they can get the bonus on their contribution, and this bonus is depending on several parameters. Like first of all, the goal for the first phase is to make a choice of the particular Parachain lease periods. So we'll be choosing between 1 year and 2 years, and basically all the participants of the swap will be indicating which period they prefer, like whether 12 months or 24 months, and basically. Then at the end of the first phase, we'll figure out which of these periods will get the majority of dots, and those who actually voted for join the minority, they will be offered to either to follow the majority and to change their choice and commit to different Parachain lease periods, or another option for them will be withdrawal of their dots right away. So depending on the choice of the leasing periods, like whether it's 1 year or 2 years, and the size of the contribution, whether it's less than 10,000 or more than 10,000 dots, bonus will be different. And the highest bonus that token swap, like .EQ token swap participants can get is 25%, and this bonus will be counted on 2-year contribution for over 10,000 dots. So the next steps for the Parachain lease offering, specifically for the first phase, we'll be sending over emails to all our whitelist participants with the links to our PLO interface, where they need to undergo the KYC procedure. So also we'll be sharing these bonus details and details on our referral program. The TNCs for our PLO will be also published on our website. So I also wanted to touch on the custodian, because as you can recall, the first phase of our PLO is more or less centralized procedure, right? Because all dots will be collected on some centralized Polkadot address on the relay chain. So this address will be basically the cold wallet, which will be managed by the custodian. The custodian that we have chosen for our first phase is Copper. This is a well-known, regulated custodian based in the UK. They are very reputable, and they will definitely bring a lot of transparency to this process. And actually, like, this will be the cold wallet, which will be managed under multi-signature permissions. Like, we will not be able as Equilibrium to withdraw funds or transfer funds from this address nowhere rather than to the crowd loan module eventually. And the concept party is responsible for transaction broadcasting will be Copper as a custodian, and also Signum Capital, which is the Singapore-based VC fund, very well-known entity in the space. They also kindly committed to joining our multi-sig. So this is kind of the setup, which will bring, from our standpoint, a lot of transparency and into the first phase of our PLO, and make it really reliable and sustainable from the perspective of our participants or investors. So another exciting update, and we actually we're also thinking of that quite a lot, is that actually the decision that we are going to join the Kusama network. And we actually were thinking of like pros and cons of that decision for quite a while. And the main consideration was for us was to avoid sort of just simple replicating of Polkadot-based technology on Kusama. Because like from our standpoint, it doesn't make sense. And definitely something like building something different with a little bit different concept should bring value to the Kusama network. And actually the idea of bringing value to the Kusama community is the premier goal for us in terms of rolling out our Kusama Parachain. So the concept that we have outlined for Kusama is the following. So first of all, this will be a very experimental platform. Like the overall technology will be obviously similar to what we are rolling out to Polkadot. However, the key differentiator here will be sort of different system parameters. They will be way riskier than parameters of the system on Polkadot. So it will be lower. There will be lower minimum collateralization level of 100% per se. Also, we will be adding a lot of ERC20 tokens from the day one, and the lineup of these tokens will be really sort of vibrant, and it will be very much different to what we will have on Polkadot, because on Polkadot we'll be more selective in terms of assets that we'll be adding to the platform. Because like we will be looking for more sort of less volatile asset, first of all, which will have less volatility risk implied. In terms of Kusama, the Kusama network will be adding way more assets, and it will be, you know, different, really different setup compared to Polkadot. So following the concept of sort of experimental platform, we'll be also using our Kusama Parachain for rolling out new features of our platform. So there will be like brave new things like different derivatives and different sophisticated instruments firstly tested out on Kusama before they go into production on Polkadot. And that means that basically our Kusama network will be especially interesting for more, you know, reckless traders, whatever, who actually enjoy risks and can take more risks in terms of their operations. So I think it will be really interesting and definitely bring a bunch of value to the Kusama community. So another thing which I also wanted to mention here, that our Kusama-based technology will be also testing our governance model, which eventually will be applied to our Polkadot based product line, and the overall goal for rolling out these Kusama products will be more decentralization from the day one. So here's how token economy on Kusama will look like. So first of all, there will be introduced a new utility token tailored specifically for Kusama. And this token will be of initial supply of 1.2 billion tokens. So for now, we don't have the name in place for that. We'll announce the naming contest in our socials next week. And definitely would love to have you guys participating there, because we definitely would love to hear your ideas on that. So the ratio of Kusama token will be 10 tokens per 1 EQ. And actually users who have allocations and vestings of EQ in our Polkadot-based Parachain will get automatically 10x more tokens on Kusama. So basically, we have allocated 45% of the total token supply of Kusama-based tokens for EQ holders for the current EQ holders, basically. Also, the a bunch of tokens will be allocated for our PLO on Kusama. And we definitely would love to have you guys participating there in order to get our Kusama tokens and be among the first sort of users who hold tokens in their hands. So with regards to our Kusama auctions, first of all, like the approach here will be a little bit different to what to the approach we're taking on Polkadot. First of all, there will be no KSM swap like we have basically decided for Polkadot, right? So there will be .EQ swap. In Kusama, there will be no swap. There will be only crowd loan. And that means that KSM holders, they will be they will have the opportunity to stake their KSM for our Parachain on Kusama and start receiving interest in Kusama tokens. And as I said, Kusama-based tokens. And as I said, we have allocated 25% of the overall Kusama token supply for these operations. So the goal for us in terms of auctions in Kusama is to secure slots in the course of 2 years, specifically participate in 4 auctions with the sort of average bid for 6-month period. So the premium structure will be similar to what we are introducing on Polkadot. It will be comprised of the current KSM staking rates plus premium, which will be calculated based on the stake that users will be contributing to this to the auction. Yeah, so without further ado, let me give it over to Lesley. She will introduce to you the PLO KYC procedure.
Absolutely. So as my colleagues have mentioned, the KYC procedure is going to be an essential part of your participation in the token swap. And this is actually a quite simple procedure. So what you need to know basically is that it's going to open on April 12th when the swap actually starts. And you're going to be using the same webpage that Peter has presented to you earlier. It's plo.equilibrium.io. So it's a subpage of our website. I should mention that that page is not active yet, but it will be shortly. So just keep a lookout for it. Obviously, this KYC procedure, which is standardized, is GDPR compliant. So if you are in the European Union or you are subject to the law of the European Union, then those particular legal parameters are covered and it's compliant with that. The general information that you need to provide is actually pretty standard. So it's your full name, your date of birth, nationality, identification document, home address. And to document all of this, in fact, we need some kind of photo ID or travel document and proof of address. And I'm going to show you now, I'm going to walk you through with some screenshots how the procedure actually works on that subpage of our website. So if I could ask for the next slide. So the first step is to connect your DOT wallet. And before you do that, you have to essentially scan a QR code that the site will generate for you. And then actually, it goes pretty fast. Next slide, please. You're going to have the opportunity, well, you're actually going to have to accept the terms and conditions and the data processing terms that are connected to this PLO events. So the data terms and the terms and conditions can be downloaded, and you can take a detailed look at them. They will also detail all of the mechanics so that you know all of the steps and the procedure and timelines. So that's actually a useful set of information that you can use for your own reference. Then you press the next button, and if I can ask for the next slide, then the next thing that you can do is actually upload your ID document. And you have a choice here of 4 different options. You can use your driver's license, ID card, passport, or residence permit. You have to specify what country the document is issued from, and here you have some guidelines about what the document needs to look like once it's been photographed before you upload it. So you have to be sure that you include all of the information, that nothing is cut off, otherwise the system won't accept the document. So do pay attention to that. Next slide, please. And the final step is essentially you take a selfie, but this is a rather unusual selfie. Just let me alert your attention to how you have to do it. You should position your face within the circle, and then you rotate your head in a 360-degree circle so that it can scan your whole face. Until it does that, the system won't accept the photograph that it's taken. So do please pay attention to that. You can see this represented here in the screenshot where you see those green lines. As you rotate your head, you're going to see those green lines moving, so you know that you're doing it right. And then essentially we come to the conclusion, the last slide in the process here. And you're going to see confirmation from the system, which is going to tell you check marks behind all of the major steps that you've got your applicant data uploaded, your documents, and your selfie. And then you'll know that you are registered with your KYC in the system. So it's pretty fast and pretty painless. And as soon as that PLO sub-site on our domain is ready, you can do all of that in one convenient place there. So if I could have the next slide. We have come to the conclusion of the part that we wanted to present to you. As usual, you can see our contact data here. If you would like to contact either myself or Alex, please feel free to do so. And also, of course, as usual, we are coming now to the Q&A part, and we can address your questions. I see that you've already assembled quite a few of them in the chat, and I think that we have some others that we've collected earlier. So let me first open up the questions that I see here in the chat. And I see the first one. Will there be a minimum duration period to hold DOT or Kusama to participate in the PLO, or just whitelisting is enough? Alex, would you like to take that one?
Yes, I can do that. Can you repeat once again, if you don't mind?
Yes. So the question is, will there be a minimum time duration to hold DOT or Kusama in order to participate in the PLO, or is the simple process of being whitelisted enough?
So I think that there will be definitely no reasoning for some specific periods of holding DOTs or Kusamas. So whitelisting is definitely enough. And as I mentioned, whitelist participants will have the priority over other participants of our swap if we run into the hard cap of 250,000 DOTs. So if it happens that we'll receive more DOTs than we require, we'll be selecting participants on the basis of getting them whitelisted.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Next question. Why did you choose the Polkadot ecosystem? What do you think about Ethereum and Binance Smart Chain? So let me address this quickly. Essentially, I think we've told you several times, but I think it probably makes sense to reiterate. Polkadot is the obvious choice for us because as a DeFi project, Polkadot really offers technology that's revolutionary in terms of its potential to enable DeFi, and we're already seeing that. And notably, there are two key points that Polkadot enables, and those are interoperability and scalability. And if you've been following DeFi, then you know that those are two main issues that the DeFi market has been struggling with until now. So obviously scalability, which is, at least if we look at the dominating current DeFi platform, which is Ethereum, scalability has often proven itself to be an issue. And if we want to develop DeFi without limit, then obviously, or beyond at least its current state, even though it's growing, it's still going to have to be more scalable. And this is something that Polkadot enables. And obviously the interoperability is significant, because that's going to give you, as we are specifically focusing on, much more potential for liquidity by enabling multiple assets for collateral and for all of your DeFi use cases. So obviously that is something which is very important, because as we know, the digital assets on Ethereum only constitute 12% of total digital assets. So this is also something which is very important. Let me just go to
yes, and if you don't mind, I also wanted to add to that a few words. If you were watching our Polka Defines events, I was sharing the story behind our path to the Polkadot development. And let me reiterate that once again right here. So basically, like if you know that we were building on multiple other platforms before, right? So we have experience in building on Ethereum, we have experience building on EOS, and at some points, like we were thinking of building on other platforms, and like the sort of thought that came up to our mind was like that. So, okay, so if we move to another ecosystem, does it mean that we need to roll out all the business logics from scratch built on a totally new technology? So per se, if we go for, I don't know, Tesla's developments, whether we need to deploy things and build everything on, per se, on Michelson technology, or if we go for Cosmos, do we need to deploy something on Tendermint eventually? So the idea for us was to find the platform which will deliver the cross-chain interoperability out of the box, and to basically to launch the core business logics, the core system components on this platform, and to connect like other blockchain platforms or sort of blockchain systems with the core one, with bridges and some connectors. So the Polkadot technology was the obvious choice here, because Polkadot is considered as a blockchain of blockchains, which delivers the interoperability functionality almost out of the box, right? And given that bridges at Polkadot are delivered by independent teams, we can definitely see a Cambrian explosion of different bridges eventually, and almost every significant blockchain ecosystem will be connected with Polkadot, including Binance Smart Chain for sure, and other chains as well. So yeah, as Lesley mentioned, Polkadot was quite an obvious choice. And by the way, here's the question I see on the chat. When Lease on Uniswap? Lesley is asking. So let me take maybe this question as well. So first of all, yes, we're going to launch the liquidity pool with the Q tokens on Uniswap. So in terms of like further listings and enablements of token transfers, we're going to do that right after we accomplish our first phase of the PLO. As I said, it will be in between April 12th and April 25th. And right after that, we will be launching our tokens on exchanges and on automated market making protocols as well. So the high-level plan here is the following. So first of all, we'll be launching obviously the Uniswap pool. Right after that, there will be the premier listing on one of the major exchanges, and also, and we basically also have some very exciting announcement, by the way, regarding exchanges very soon. Stay tuned. I believe that expectedly next week we will share something with our community. What's also exciting here that we are considering like launching our token on Polka Starter as well.
Okay, so let me see. The next question I think I'd like to address to Peter. So let me just read it to you. Although I've been whitelisted, I don't remember what Polkadot address I used to register. Polkadot Relay Chain or any chain address. Do I have a chance to review my whitelisted address or change my address if needed before the PLO starts?
Actually, you may not change it, but we keep track of all the addresses and we store them in database in the unified format, which is basically your address is still your address irrespective of the chain you use. And if for some reason you forgot it, we can always look it up in our database. So that's not a problem. Yeah.
So, and then somebody's asking, since you plan to do both Kusama and Polkadot, will there be a token swap for Kusama too? The answer.
I can address that, and I believe Alex just talked about that on one of the slides. He said that there won't be a token swap. There will only be a crowd loan phase where users will directly go to the crowd loan module and basically put their tokens there by bidding for our Kusama chain.
Okay. And I see that there's also a question in the chat relating to that about dates for, let me see, where was this now? I just saw it.
Lesley, I think.
Yeah, I think she is experiencing some problems with the connection.
Yeah. Connection next. Yeah, so the question about, I can handle that one as well. So what about EQ that are currently investing period until the 18th of November? Is there anything we have to be aware of? Well, and I believe Alex mentioned that as well. All of your tokens, which are currently vested, if you will receive 10 times more tokens in Kusama, and you won't have any vestings and locks there, and you will just receive the full amount once you basically prove that you are the owner of the EQ tokens. And by proving, I mean that you will probably need to sign some sort of message, which is pretty similar to what we have done with our not.
Yeah, Lesley, we have you back.
Yeah, sorry about that. So I think since I missed for a second what you're saying, I guess you answered the question about Kusama auction and crowd loan, right? If there are dates for that?
Yeah, no answered about the last one in the Q&A section.
Okay. The last one meaning the next one or the last one? Okay, let's go through, and if I repeat one, then you'll bear with me. So let me address then that question, which obviously hasn't yet been answered. Dates for Kusama auction crowd loan. Again, if I'm repeating myself, you just interrupt me, one of you two gentlemen. So we don't know the dates yet because this is something that will be announced by Polkadot in terms of the crowd loan. However, we are planning actually only to participate in the crowd loan for Kusama. We're not going to be doing a swap for Kusama. So that is something that you will want to take note of.
Yeah, basically, this crowd loan mechanics will be launched simultaneously with the auctioning procedure on the Kusama network, right? So we were pretty much aligned with the timelines for the Kusama network, basically.
Okay, so let me see.
But seems like it will happen pretty soon, by the way.
Mm-hmm. So let's see, we've got a question here, and I think this is one you didn't address yet because it looks pretty long. I'd like to clarify. You have PLO phases 1 and 2. Phase 1 is the DOT token swap, and phase 2 is the crowd loan. I think the DOT collected in the token swap are also used in the crowd loan. If I participate in the token swap and then my DOT are used for the crowd loan, do I get bonuses from the token swap or the crowd loan or both? That's a very good question. And in fact, this is very relevant because this is something you should take note of. In fact, you can't get awards for both of them. So what this means is that you have to choose, essentially. So if you participate in the token swap and you're eligible for bonuses from it, then you will only get those bonuses from the swap, but no rewards from the staking in the crowd loan. And what that means specifically is Alex showed you on a slide what kind of bonuses apply for the token swap. So if you fall into one of those categories that you can get the bonus, you can only get that in the token swap if you don't do the individual bidding in the crowd loan. However, what I would like to say is you can participate in both phases, both the token swap and the crowd loan, but then you have to be aware that only those phases that you participate in individually will get you the various awards, if that makes sense. And if this is confusing, then please write to me in the chat. So let me try and explain a little bit more in a targeted way. So if you do the swap, you get the bonus from the swap. And if you want to additionally do the crowd loan, then you have to enter the crowd loan as an individual bidder, as opposed to us using your DOT from the token swap to bid for us. I hope that that is clear. And then you get accordingly the amount of award that you have invested, pledged in those various phases. So this is something to take note of, that you have to pretty much choose and also focus how you're going to be participating.
And maybe just a heads up here. So if you guys currently staking dots per se for validators on the Relay chain, if you want to participate in the token swap, which will be happening between April 12th and April 25th, seems like you need to unstake your dots, and it will take you like 4 weeks to get your dots and make it transferable. So seems like you need to do that right away.
Yep. And here's another one that I think I'm going to take really quickly. Why did you create a new token, EQ, if you already have EOSDT and NUT? You can just transfer them to the Polkadot ecosystem. This is, of course, completely different things, right? So first of all, I'd like to say that long-term, we foresee building a bridge to EOS so that you can use your EOSDT and NUT. But obviously, the functionalities of the EQ token that we've created in the context of the Polkadot project go much beyond the scope of EOSDT and NUT. Well, EOSDT, of course, being a stable coin. But anyway, as a utility token, EQ goes beyond the scope of NUT. So what this means is that the EQ token can be used for bailouts and for collateral, multi-asset collateral, cross-chain, which of course is far beyond the scope of what NUT does, which is applying specifically to the project on EOS. So I hope that that's clear, and I hope you realize that this is why the EOS token has a totally different potential, both in terms of its product and project applications, and also is definitely necessary and, how should I say, something that we cannot do without in the context of this expanded project. So I hope that answers that. Then we have a question: what projects are similar to Equilibrium, and what are the strengths of Equilibrium that outperform them? I'm going to let Alex take this one.
Yeah, so good question. So first of all, as you guys know, we're building the conglomerate of DeFi products, the first of this kind on the market. And the idea behind that is basically to unite all sustained DeFi use cases on a single platform. And basically to do so, you can choose between two approaches. So the first one is to build the aggregator, right? It's like 1inch or refinance or something like that. We definitely think that this model also works. However, it has certain drawbacks because you are basically relying on third-party technology and so on and so forth. While when you are taking the approach of building the conglomerates, you can think of that as of building something from having the greenfield in front of you, right? And you can reinvent some certain DeFi procedures and to build the technology from scratch, what we are doing at Equilibrium, right? Because we are not, I'm continuously repeating that, we are not replicating existing DeFi concepts, right? We definitely are providing like similar services like pooled lending, decentralized stablecoins, synthetic assets, and so on and so forth. However, the core technology is not replicating some of the existing DeFi concepts on Ethereum specifically. And what's maybe the most interesting that we're taking absolutely different approach in terms of borrowing cost assessments, because behind the equilibrium system, we have the approach of risk-based approach, which is more common for traditional finance rather than for DeFi. And you know that most of DeFi protocols like Compounds or Aave, they're taking the approach of asset utilization assessments, like supply and demand, so on and so forth, to evaluate the borrowing costs in their platforms. We think that the approach, like risk-based approach, makes way more sense because it makes system more balanced and more sustainable eventually. So yeah, from this standpoint, we definitely are building something very different. And what's also interesting that like all this product line, thanks to the perfect architecture, is simply stringed on the core components of the system, which means that we are not forced to take a lot of efforts to develop things like develop specific products, right? Because we have a very strong basis, and every of these core components are utilized in these products.
Okay,
so this is doing broad strokes. And by the way, I wanted to address, like, I believe that we are almost running out of time, but here's a very good question in the chat, which Gary Whitburn is asking. Long story short, so basically he's asking how much EQ tokens are, how much tokens on Kusama he will get if he participates in the token swap. So the idea here is that, like, all EQ token holders who will be holding EQ tokens on our Polkadot based Parachain at the moment of genesis of our Kusama based network, they will receive the rights to claim EQ, like new utility tokens on Kusama proportional to their stakes on the Polkadot's Parachain. So like we're still figuring out the particular technical details of that, but in general, like the most likely it will work like that. So we'll take the snapshots of the network at the moment of genesis, and basically count the respective amounts of tokens on the Kusama network for Kusama for EQ token holders. So something like that. So there will be definitely no sort of automatic rewards in this sense. However, you will be able to claim your tokens on Kusama right after the genesis block there.
Okay.
Hopefully I addressed the question.
We are running out of time, but let's see if we can answer the remaining questions really, really fast. So I see one that I think is for Peter. U128, is it a type of data in Rust or something else?
Well, yeah, I've answered that already in the comment section. Yeah. Yes, it's a data type, which is most commonly used. It's a Rust data type, but this one is most commonly used throughout the projects within the substrate. Yeah.
Okay, next one real quick. In phase one, we will deposit DOT. Who will secure DOT before the PLO? So this is something that was actually also addressed by Alex, I believe. And we will have a custodian in place who's going to be managing the assets that you will be pledging in the token swap. So this is something that we are consciously doing in order to increase security and reliability in the system to manage your assets. Let's look at the next one. For phase two of PLO, will the price pegged of EQ be the same or something different? I'm going to let Alex take that one.
Sorry, can you repeat the question once again?
So for phase two of the PLO, for the crowd loan, will the price pegged of EQ be the same or something different? I'm assuming this refers to the ratio of the token swap from EQ
so
to...
currently we're assuming that the ratio will be similar. However, like, we'll keep you posted regarding that.
Okay, next one, and there are two left. So let's see. What about the EQ that are currently investing until November of 2021? Is there anything we have to be aware of? I'm not exactly sure what that means. Does anyone want to take that question? It's
Which one?
It's not quite clear, guys, what you mean. So if whoever wrote that would like to clarify in the chat, please send a clarification. Let me go on to the next two questions in the hope of still managing to answer them. So we have one. I can't send DOT from a 5 substrate address. I accidentally gave the substrate address instead of Polkadot address, which starts with a 1. Can we change that, please? I think this is a question for Peter.
And I've already addressed that in the comments section.
Okay, so I didn't see that, so sorry. And the last one, does it matter if I use the Polkadot relay chain address, not the address on any chain? Did you address that?
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't matter. Yeah, all the questions in the Q&A section, I've commented on those.
Okay,
yeah.
great.
Yeah, thanks,
Okay,
Peter.
so I think we've got actually everything. And then I'd like to thank you guys for your attention. And looking forward to seeing you on the next and 5th community call. Have a good weekend coming up.
Yeah,
Okay?
thank you very much. And that was the most active Q&A session we have had ever during our community calls. Thank you very much. You guys are amazing.
Great. Okay, take care. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.